வணக்கம், நான் டாக்டர் லீனேஷ் சூரியபிரகாசம், உங்களின் இன்றைய மாடரேட்டர். இன்றைக்கான நிகழ்வு இளைஞர் சமுதாயத்தில் மனநலம் பற்றி பேசவிருக்கிறோம். இன்று நம்மோட டாக்டர் காயத்ரி, மன தத்துவ மருத்துவர் மற்றும் மிஸ் தனலட்சுமி, ஆலோசகர் பயிற்சியாளர் நம்மோடு இணைந்துள்ளார். இப்பொழுது நான் டாக்டர் காயத்ரி கே குமரசூரியார் அவர்களை அறிமுகப்படுத்தியுள்ளேன். டாக்டர் காயத்ரி ஒரு மன தத்துவ மருத்துவர் மற்றும் கிளினிக்கல் ஹிப்னோதெரபிஸ்ட், மலாக்கா மருத்துவமனையில் பணிபுரிகிறார். அவருக்கு மனம், உடல் கூறு மற்றும் மருத்துவத்தில் சிறப்பு ஆர்வம். அதிலும் மன அழுத்தங்கள், பெண்கள் அதிகாரம் மற்றும் ரெசிலியன்சி பயிற்சி புலமை அடைந்தவர். அவரின் தூர நோக்கு சிந்தனை, அதாவது மோட்டோ, the lower we fall, the higher we should aspire to rise. இரண்டாவதாக மிஸ் தனலட்சுமி ஒரு ஆலோசகர் மற்றும் பயிற்சியாளர் நம்மோடு இணைந்துள்ளார். அவர் அச்சீவர்ஸ் பிளாட்ஃபார்மின் முதன்மை ஆலோசகர். அவர் ஆஸ்திரேலியாவில் அப்ளைட் சைக்காலஜி பட்டம் பெற்றவர். மலாயா பல்கலைக்கழகத்தில் இருந்து சான்றிதழ் பயிற்சியாளர் பெற்றார். அவர் அவரின் தலைமைத்துவம் பட்டநேரி பயிற்சிக்கும், அதாவது லீடர்ஷிப் கோர்ஸ் மற்றும் நினைவாக பயிற்சி, அதாவது மெமரி மாஸ்டர் பெயர் பெற்றவர். அவர் 50,000 மாணவர்கள் மேல் பயிற்சி அளித்தவர். அவர் ஊடக துறையிலும் புகழ் பெற்றவர். சரி, கேள்வி பதில் அகத்துக்கு செல்வோம். What is mental health? மிஸ் தானா கேட்கின்றதா?
கேக்குது. வணக்கம்.
ஹலோ மிஸ் தானா.
ஹலோ, உங்களுக்கு கேக்குதா?
வணக்கம். சரி மேம், முதல் கேள்வி மேம், மனநல நிலை என்றால் என்ன? What is mental health? கேக்குது மேம்.
ஓகே. What is mental health? எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். டாக்டர் லினேஷ், டாக்டர் காயத்ரி, எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். Mental healthனா it includes our emotional, psychological and social well-being, and it affects how we feel, how we act and how we think. It also determines how we handle stress, relate to others and make choices. Okay, and like we will look at mental health illnesses. Some of them will be like depression, schizophrenia, anxiety disorder, bipolar, eating disorders, and various others. There are many disorders. Okay, so that will be what sums up to mental health.
உங்களின் கருத்து, இது பற்றி தங்களின் கருத்துக்கள் என்ன?
Okay,
Doctor.
Sorry.
Hi, doctor. Okay. What is, in your opinion, what is mental health, doctor?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Miss Tana. Good evening, Dr. Leeynesh.
Good evening.
I agree with Miss Tana in the sense that when we talk about mental health, the mental health பத்தி பேசணும்னா, it's a state of well-being. Okay, and WHO has also endorsed it and defined it. It's a state of well-being where individuals, we realize our own abilities, we're able to cope with the normal stresses in life, we can work productively as well as we can contribute to the community. So that's basically, that sums up what a person's mental health is. Mental illness is different compared to mental health. So when a person's mental health is affected, the risk of developing mental illness increases. People normally get confused between mental health and mental illness.
Correct, doctor. Alright, doctor. இரண்டாவது கேள்வி, நமது இளைஞர் சமுதாயத்தில் எத்தனை விழுக்காடு மனநல பாதிப்பு உள்ளாகினார்? Among our youth, how many of them are being affected with mental health illness, doctor?
All right. If we look at our national morbidity survey in Malaysia, right, what we can see is 1 in 3, the one in 2015, is that 1 in 3 Malaysians aged 16 years and above is affected with one form of mental health or the other. இப்போ வந்து பிள்ளைங்களை எடுத்தோம்னாக்கா, we take children, the percentage is about 12.1% of children, and if you take adults, it's about 29.2% of adults, a rough figure. Now, what we need to realize is this is most probably not a true reflection of the mental illness that is in our society in Malaysia, because many with mental illness do not come forward for treatment, or they're just not detected. So the figures that we have is this.
Yeah. All right, doctor. Okay, doctor. All right, Miss Tana. ஒருவர் மனநல பாதிப்படைந்தால் அதுக்கான அறிகுறிகள் என்ன? If someone's being affected with their mental health, what are the signs and symptoms you can see?
Okay. Basically, a lot of people are affected with mental health, and சமயத்துல we are very busy with our daily lives, and we fail to see the signs. And நம்மளோட சயின்ஸும் தெரியாது, மற்றவங்களோட சயின்ஸும் நம்மளுக்கு தெரியாது. But there are certain things we must pay attention to it. Like for example, சில பேர் sadness, அதிகமா extremely sad, எப்போதும் sadness low level திடீர்னு when they are normal all the time, but திடீர்னு ரொம்ப சேடா இருப்பாங்க, excessively extremely சேடா இருப்பாங்க. இதெல்லாம் things to take note of. Like இப்போ ஒரு படத்தை பார்த்துட்டு நம்ம சேட் ஆகிறோம், அழுகுறோம்னா that is quite normal. So you cannot think that எனக்கு mental illness நான் அழுகுறேன், I'm sad. அப்படி இல்லை. This has to be like ongoing, ஒரு திடீர்னு ஒரு 1 week 2 week 3 weeks extreme sadness. So that is one of it. ரெண்டாவது extreme high or extreme low. Extreme lowனா ரொம்ப டவுனா, low energy, ஒன்னும் செய்யறதுக்கு இல்லாம, like they feel numb, எதுவுமே செய்ய பிடிப்பு இல்லாம அப்படி இருக்கிறது, வெரி லோவா இருப்பாங்க. இல்லாட்டி வெரி ஹை, வெரி யூஃபோரிக், நான் இது செய்வேன் அது செய்வேன், என்னால எது வேணாலும் முடியும் அப்படின்னு இருக்கிறது, அதுவும் இஸ் ஒன் ஆஃப் த சைன்ஸ் டு டேக் நோட் ஆஃப். எப்பயாவது ஒரு நாள் இருக்கிறதுக்கும் திடீர்னு கொஞ்ச நாளைக்கு இந்த மாதிரி இருக்குது, எபிசோடிக் அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிறது we have to take note of. மூணாவது என்னதுன்னா, நான் ஒரு about 7 இது சொல்றேன். மூணாவது என்னன்னா எக்ஸசிவ் ஃபியர், worry or anxiety, extreme fear, anxiety, worry. இப்ப நான் இது சொன்னால ஹை லோ, அதுல நம்ம 2 சொன்னால அதுல எங்கேயும் ஒன் ஆஃப் இட். திடீர்னு கோவம், சண்டை போடுறது, ஒய்ஃப் அடிக்கிறது, இல்லாட்டி ஒய்ஃப் ஹஸ்பண்ட் அடிக்கிறது, ரொம்ப பிக்கியா இருக்கிறது, அது ஒன் ஆஃப் த திங்ஸ். நம்பர் 3 anxiety, fear or worry. ரொம்ப அதிகமா எக்ஸ்ட்ரீமா, இப்போ ஒரு காடி ஓட்டத்துக்கு பயந்துகிட்டு நான் காடி ஓட்டுனா இதாயிரும் அதாயிரும், தேவையில்லாதெல்லாம் யோசிச்சுக்கிட்டு, இல்ல நான் ஒரு வேலைக்கு போனா என் பாஸ் என்னை திட்டுவாங்க, இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிறது. ஒரு பாஸ் ஒருத்தர் யுகாண்டால இருந்து கூப்பிட்டாரு, அவருக்கு பிரச்சனை, ஒரு வாரத்துக்கு மேல ஒரு 2 வாரமா பிரச்சனை. ஏன்னா பாஸ் கூட டீலிங்ஸ், அவரு எப்போதும் திட்டுறாரு, கோவப்படுறாரு, அந்த மாதிரி. சோ அந்த மாதிரி anxiety, fear, worry, அவங்க செல்ஃப் எஸ்டீம் பாதிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கு. So this can be affected. And நம்ம socially they are withdrawn, வெளியே போறது இல்ல, வீட்லயே இருக்குது, எங்கேயும் கூப்பிட்டா வர்றது இல்ல, ஒரு ஃபங்க்ஷனுக்கு, பர்த்டேக்கு, இல்ல ஷாப்பிங்க்கு, இல்ல ஒரு எக்ஸ்கியூஸ் கொடுப்பாங்கன்னா எனக்கு வர முடியல, எனக்கு தலைவலிக்குது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு வீட்லயே இருப்பாங்க, லோன்லியா இருக்கிறதுக்கு ஆசை. சோஷியலி they are withdrawn. இப்ப நான் இதெல்லாம் சொல்றேன்ல, சில பேர் நினைப்பீங்க எனக்கு 1 2 3 இருக்கு, அதனால எனக்கு மென்டல் இல்னஸ் இருக்குன்னு நினைச்சிடலாம். அப்படி இல்ல. இது நான் சொல்றது எக்ஸ்ட்ரீம் கேசஸ். சோ நீங்க பாருங்க, எல்லாருக்கும் எல்லாமே கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் இருக்கும். ஆனா நம்ம பேசுறது இது ரொம்ப எக்ஸ்ட்ரீமா இருந்தா. சோ நம்பர் 4. நம்பர் 5 பார்த்தா ஸ்லீப். சில பேர் அதிகமா தூங்குவாங்க, சில பேர் தூக்க இன்மையில இருப்பாங்க, குறைவா தூங்குவாங்க. சில பேர் சாப்பிடுறது அதிகமா சாப்பிடுவாங்க, இல்லாட்டி ரொம்ப குறைச்சி சாப்பிடுவாங்க, இல்லாட்டி சாப்பிட மாட்டாங்க. எனக்கு appetite இல்லைன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, பசிக்கலன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. சோ இதை எது வந்து நீங்க ஒரு சைன் நான் பார்க்கணும்னா ரொம்ப ஓவரா இருக்குது. இப்ப நம்ம வாழ்ந்து சொல்ல ஓவரா இருக்குன்னு. சோ அது ஓவரா இருந்துச்சுன்னா அப்ப வந்து நம்ம கன்சிடர் பண்ணலாம் இது வந்து comes in the mental disorder. Otherwise, quite normal. இப்ப சிலர் வந்து சண்டே பப்ளிக் ஹாலிடே எல்லாம் வந்து 12 hours கொடுத்துவாங்க. ஸோ அது quite normal. இது வந்து லைக் certain period of time அங்க போயிட்டு ஒரு வாரம் 2 வாரம் 3 வாரம் தொடர்ந்து ரொம்ப தூங்கினாங்கன்னா அவாய்டிங் ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் விட்டு தப்பிச்சு போற மாதிரி. மற்றது வந்து லைக் 6 வந்து வாய்ஸ் கேட்கறது, டிலூஷனல், ஹெலுசினேட்டிங். சில நேரத்தில் சொல்லுவாங்க எனக்கு யாரோ பேசுற சத்தம் கேட்குது, எனக்கு யாரோ செய்தி சொல்றாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ அதெல்லாம் வந்து மஸ்ட் டேக் நோட் ஆஃப். ரொம்ப அதிகமா இப்ப என்கிட்ட ஒரு 10-year-old கேர்ள் வந்தது. அது சொல்லும் எனக்கு ஒரு ஏஞ்சல் இருக்கு, எனக்கு வந்து பதில் கொடுக்கும், என் பேக்ல இருக்கு. அது சொல்லும் யாரு என் பென்சில் இருக்கான்னு சொல்லும். இப்ப அவங்களை கூட பாத்துக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன்னு எவ்வளவு கேட்டா எனக்கு ஒரு மாதிரியா இருக்கும். பட் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து அது உண்மையா தெரியுது. இது வந்து சிலருக்கு வந்து கொஞ்சம் சாதாரணமா இருக்கும், சிலருக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப அதிகமா இருக்கும். ஒரு அக்கௌண்டன்ட் இருந்தாங்க. அவங்க கூட சொன்னாங்க எனக்கு மல்லிகை வாசனை இருக்குது, உங்களுக்கு தெரியுதான்னு. நான் சொன்னேன் எனக்கு இல்லையேன்னு. ஆனா அவங்களுக்கு வந்து அது உண்மையா இருக்கு. சோ அது வந்து you can say it is delusional, hallucination அந்த மாதிரி. அப்புறம் திணிக்க செய்யற வேலையெல்லாம் அவங்களால செய்ய முடியாது. இப்ப வேலைக்கு போக முடியாது, பிள்ளைங்களை பார்க்க முடியாது, அல்லது வீட்டுல சமைக்க முடியாது, இந்த டாஸ்க் டெய்லி டாஸ்க் செய்ய முடியாதுன்னு சொல்றாங்கல்ல, அதெல்லாம் வந்து ஒன் ஆஃப் த சைன்ஸ். இல்லாட்டி காலேஜ் போக முடியாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. மற்றபடி இன்னொன்னு என்னன்னா கடைசியா 8வது வந்து சூசைடு. ரொம்ப பேர் வந்து அன்சூசைடுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஒன் ஆஃப் த சைன். ஸோ இதுல சில பேர் நினைக்கலாம் எனக்கு இதுல 5 இருக்கு 7 இருக்கு அப்படின்னு கூட நினைக்கலாம். சில பேர் நினைக்கலாம் நான் கூட ஒரு நேரம் நினைச்சிருக்கேன் சூசைட் பண்ணோன்னு. அது அப்படி இல்லை. இது வந்து அவங்க கன்சிஸ்டன்ட்லி அதை பத்தி யோசிக்கிறது.
ரொம்ப நன்றி மிஸ் தானா. ஓகே டாக்டர் காயத்ரி அவர்களே, மன அழுத்தத்துக்கும் அதாவது ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் மற்றும் மனச்சோர்வுக்கும் அதாவது டிப்ரெஷன் வித்தியாசங்கள் என்ன? How can we differentiate stress and depression, doctor?
Right, okay. So stress வந்து when a person experiences pressures in the environment, வெளியால இருக்கிற pressure இல்லாட்டி நமக்குள்ளே இருக்கிற pressure, like any illnesses. So this causes the body and the mind to respond in such a way to overcome that pressure. Now, when the stress response, stress response is actually a natural phenomenon. அது வந்து நேச்சுரலா இருக்கும். And we all need a little bit of stress in small doses to motivate us. And the stress இல்லாட்டி, and the கொஞ்சம் stress இல்லாட்டி காலையில நாங்க வந்து எழுத மாட்டோம் to go to work. Nothing to motivate you to go to work. So you need a little bit of stress, optimum amount of stress, so that we can carry on with life. Now, so you see that stress is not always a bad thing. Now, when does it become bad? It becomes bad when the normal stress continues and you don't take a break. You don't take a rest. So body starts feeling tired. Or when a person, faces a sudden overwhelming, அதிர்ச்சியான stress and you cannot cope. So this stress is not a good stress, and this is when a person develops symptoms like, you feel tired all the time, you can't sleep properly, and, you get angry, you feel nervous, you feel like crying. And this, when it prolongs, if it keeps going on, you can be prone to developing illness. Okay? வேற விதமான இருக்கலாம் இந்த ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்னால. And you can end up with either physical medical problems, அதாவது heart problems, high blood pressure, diabetes, and even some research has shown cancer as a result of prolonged stress. Or you can develop mental illness, and one of the mental illness that you can develop is depression. Okay, and apart from what Ms. Tana has said, It can even cause you to have bipolar mood disorder. It can even lead you to developing schizophrenia and other types of anxiety disorder.
ஓகே டாக்டர், ரொம்ப நன்றி டாக்டர். ஓகே, அதுக்கு ஒரு ஃபாலோ அப் கேள்வி. பாரம்பரியமாக மனநோய் வருமா? இஸ் மென்டல் ஹெல்த் இல்னஸ் இஸ் அசோசியேட்டட் வித் ஜெனடிக் லிங்கேஜ்?
Right. So, is the question direct to me?
Yes, Dr. Directly.
Thank you. Alright.
Okay.
So, yes, indeed, it runs in the family, and genetic factors is one of the risk factors to developing mental illness. However, that is not the only cause of mental illness. Okay, so mental illness can be caused by other factors. One of it is your environment, childhood, for example. Any childhood traumas or any form of abuse during childhood, சின்ன வயசுல, any trauma, abuse, அந்த மாதிரி இருந்தா வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. The risk is there. Then you have some health conditions that can actually cause mental illness as a result of the health condition. For example, fits, seizures, epilepsy, stroke, patients who develop stroke. Some patients who have tumors in the brain, they can have mental, and also, when they are on several different types of, some medications can also cause these kind of symptoms. And of course, when you have injury to the head, brain injury, and the mental illness can. The other very common and very unfortunate, very rampant and worrying cause of mental illness nowadays, especially in our younger generation, is the abuse of drugs and alcohol. All right. Now, the problem is when we start taking drugs and alcohol at a very young age, where the brain is still developing, what happens is it interferes with the development of the normal brain. And when this happens, the risk of developing mental illness is very high. Now, apart from that, when you have, you don't have good social support, constant stress, staying alone, financial worries, stressful events, relationships, work, and so on and so forth, all these factors can either individually or in combination, predispose to mental illness. Now, I'll give you an example of combination where the concern, because this is something that we are all very concerned about, because the youth are the future of, our future. See, when I told you about இப்போ drugs எடுக்கிறாங்க, alcohol எடுக்கிறாங்க, and this interferes with the development of the brain and it increases the risk of developing mental illness. So that's one cause. The influence of drugs and alcohol, when they drive recklessly or do anything that is reckless and end up with a brain injury, the risk of developing mental illness is extremely high. And when there is already such physical damage to the brain structure, it's very difficult to treat, and the future is gone. So this is what we're trying to educate our youngsters, to be careful, not to fall into that trap.
ஓகே டாக்டர், நன்றி டாக்டர். இப்ப மிஸ்தானாக்கு ஒரு கேள்வி. இவ்வாறு ஒருவர் அல்லது நமது நண்பர்களின் மனநல பாதிப்பு பட்டால் உதவ முடியும். That is, let's say if someone that we know, or a family member or a friend that we know has been affected by this mental health illness, how can we help?
How we can help them? Okay, basically, if we see if the case is quite extreme, then what you have to do is you got to seek professional help. Because sometimes we may not know how to help. The thing is, like, for example, there was this friend in India. He told me that I have got a friend and his son has got a problem. This friend is from Dubai and he happened to be in Chennai. And his friend is in Dubai, his son is in Hyderabad, India. So he said he's got a problem. So I said, how can I help him? I can't even see him. and I haven't spoken to him. He said, never mind, you know about psychology, so why don't you give some ideas or tips, or you just talk to him. So I said, okay, first and foremost, what you do is you go and find out certain things. You go and ask him whether he's eating properly, sleeping properly, whether he can do his daily tasks, or he's going to college, or he's failed his exam, or there's a history of illness in the family, hereditary factors. So he said, okay, and he went and asked him, and he came in and said, you see, what you said is true. No, you see, I told you, you are the right person. He is not sleeping properly, he is not eating properly, he doesn't go to college, and there's a history of family illness in the family, mental illness in the family, like grandparents and some of the relatives. So he said, then you should talk to him. And the problem is, this guy is in Hyderabad, he speaks only Hindi, his father speaks Hindi, I don't speak Hindi. So he says, what I can do is, the father will talk to the son, the father will talk to me because I can understand Hindi, and I will translate. So I said that doesn't work because it is going to pass so many stages and the information may not be accurate. So I said the best thing to do is you have to seek professional help. And so he sought a psychiatrist's help. Now, if a friend, let's say a friend has got some problems, or when you notice some of the signs, simple things like he's stressful or he's depressed for some time, so what you can do is he or she, so you can be supportive, be with the friend, talk to the friend, find out what's bothering them, and you can keep them active, get them involved in activities, maybe do some physical exercises, activities, mountain climbing, or get a hobby, interest. So these are the things you can do, because when you're active, then you do physical exercise, a lot of endorphins are produced, you feel better, your mood changes, and then when you're active, certain hormones, chemical balances in the brain takes place, like stimulation of serotonin, dopamine, and other chemicals, other hormones will be stimulated, so it helps them be calm, sleep better, so that helps. Other than that, try not to talk to the person about something that triggers the person. Like, for example, if the person has got OCD, the person has been continuously washing hands, maybe they've got a pattern of washing 3 times each bowl, each plate. So try not to make fun of them and tell them, use trigger words like, oh, here comes the person who washes 3 times. Here comes the person who's got number 3. See, so those are trigger words. Or if a person has been having love failure, so try not to talk about the past person, the girlfriend or the boyfriend, So these are trigger words. And the other thing is try not to criticize, make fun of the person. Like the person failed the exam, and then you go and say, you always fail the exams, you are never an achiever. Those kind of trigger words, which bothers them. Or if the husband constantly beats the wife, don't talk to her about the husband beating the wife. So that will actually trigger the person to think about the incidents. Okay? And what other things you can do is, the most important thing is you can listen. Listening is very important. Sometimes just by listening, the person feels much better, or the problem actually goes away. Like, for example, yes?
Or a supportive psychotherapy, Mary.
Yes. By listening, then the problem actually, they can just deal with their own day-to-day functions, the stress goes away, and they are back to normal activities. But above all, if there is some other problem, then they have to look for professional help.
ஓகே மிஸ்டர் ரொம்ப நன்றி. ஓகே டாக்டர், இப்பொழுது நமக்கு ஒரு கேள்வி வந்திருக்கு. How seriousness is the mental health problem among Indian youth in Malaysia? Doctor, would you mind to answer this question?
Thank you for very important, I think it's a very relevant question. The mental health problem among our youths in Malaysia is pretty high. I think this is something all of us are aware. We are aware of what the issues are, in the sense that one is, of course, we deal with poverty, we deal with lack of continuing their education. It's not that the opportunities are not there, but the lack of continuing the education, the lack of motivation, right? Maybe we don't have enough role models. I don't know, where we have gone wrong and what has happened. But it's time that we all get together and look into this seriously. Gangsterism is very, very high amongst our youths, and that's really worrying. Gangsters. So they look up to the gangster leaders as their role models. So something has gone wrong somewhere. We keep saying influences of movies and so on and so forth. What we need is to probably start educating our Indian youths from primary school itself. What is right, what is wrong. Introduce to them proper role models, like Sundar Pichai, for example, the CEO of Google Chrome. We need to bring people like that inside, right? And show them that, look, sometimes we come from, places where it appears that we don't have the opportunity, but we must not give up and keep going. So role models, lack of role models, to look into their, and I think this is something that we have to do as a society. And one of the things that you're doing, Dr. Leeynesh, having this and getting the ball rolling, creating awareness amongst our youth, I think that is a good thing. That's a beginning, but we need to do more. Alcohol, drugs, gangsterism. It's not that they are not smart. It's just that somewhere along the way, they are getting sidetracked by the wrong people, because maybe the right people are not coming in, or they're not being, included.
Okay. ரொம்ப நன்றி டாக்டர். Sorry, doctor. You want to add anything?
It's serious. And it's time we all wake up.
Yeah, correct, doctor. Alright. ரொம்ப நன்றி டாக்டர். அடுத்த கேள்வி போவோம். ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்டிருக்காங்க. ஓகே, இப்பொழுது ஒருத்தர் மனநல பாதிப்பு அடைந்தால் அவர் அறிவாரா? Do people who has mental illness know or acknowledge that they have it? Perhaps Miss Tana can go first.
Okay. சில நேரத்துல, like when I said earlier, we are very busy. நம்மளோட அன்றாட வேலையெல்லாம் செஞ்சுட்டு இருப்போம். நம்மளுக்கே தெரியாது நம்ம பாதிப்படைஞ்சிருக்கோமா இல்லையான்னு. சில நேரத்துல நம்மளுக்கு தெரியும். சில நேரத்துல அவங்கள அறிவாங்க. நான் ஏன் சந்தோஷமா இல்ல, நான் ஏன் சோகமா இருக்கேன், எனக்கு ஏன் அடிக்கடி கோவம் வருது, இல்லாட்டி எனக்கு ஏன் my so edgy, irritated, அந்த மாதிரி அவங்களுக்கு சில நேரத்துல தெரியும். ஆனா they may not connected to mental illness or mental disorder. அவ்வளவு மோசம் இல்ல அப்படின்னு நினைச்சுப்பாங்க. மத்தவங்க சில நேரத்துல they are able to find out, they can see. இவங்க ஓகே, நான் சயின்ஸ் சொன்னல, சில நேரத்துல excessive sadness, mood swings, சாப்பிடுறது இல்ல, இல்லாட்டி அதிகமா தூங்குறது, தூக்கம் இல்ல, சோ இதெல்லாம் இருக்கலாம். சோ அதனால சில நேரத்துல அவங்களுக்கு சொந்தத்துக்கு தெரியும், but they are in denial, they don't want to accept it. Mental illness is not a very acceptable thing to many people. So எனக்கு நான் பைத்தியமா அப்படின்னு நினைப்பாங்க, am I crazy, so I don't want to seek help அப்படின்னு இருக்கலாம். சில நேரம் தெரிஞ்சவங்க, ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ், ரிலேட்டிவ்ஸ் தெரிஞ்சவங்க கொஞ்சம் அவங்கள பேசலாம் அவங்க கிட்ட. why don't you talk to someone, why don't you see a counselor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist அப்படின்னு அவங்க கிட்ட சொல்லலாம். so sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know.
ஓகே, நன்றி மிஸ் தானா. டாக்டர் காயத்ரி, இதை பற்றி தங்களின் கருத்துக்கள் என்ன? What are your thoughts about this, doctor?
Right. Okay. So I agree with Miss Tana. I just probably want to add on a little bit. Some mental illness, for example, like schizophrenia, right? One of the symptoms is they lack the insight of knowing that they actually have the illness. For them, they are not ill, especially when they go through this, false belief that, for example, what we say, a fixed false belief that, okay, for example, that is not my mother. That is actually somebody impersonating my mother. And I really believe that that's not my mother. And you try to convince the person is not going to do it. I'm not sick, doctor. You are the one who is not listening to me. So there's nothing wrong with me. Or I have been harmed. There's nothing wrong. I'm hearing the voices. Can you hear? You can't hear. I can hear. I got special powers you don't have. So the insight, that is a different whole ball game. Then the other thing is somebody who is depressed does not want to come forward, and they live in a denial, not because they know something is not right, but to comfort the stigma. The moment you hear of somebody, which is very sad because, like I said, mental illness is just an illness like physical illness. We are not shy when we have stomachache. We are not shy when we have, a chest pain. We go to the hospital, we go and see the doctor. But because this is something which is historical, and mental illness was started off as, people thought it was a punishment and so on and so forth, and families become very embarrassed about it. So the stigma, because of the stigma, people don't go, they rather sit and suffer alone, right? But even having said that, sometimes when a person is depressed, they don't realize that they're depressed because, the signs and symptoms may not be so overwhelming. They just feel low, they just feel tired, they feel body ache, they keep going until maybe somebody, sort of says, are you okay? You look like you're depressed, right? So there are some who genuinely don't believe that they are, so they cannot acknowledge it. There are some who know, but they are embarrassed to go. But the good news is that more and more people are shying away from the stigma. They say, you know what, I want to be healthy, so I will come. So people are actually coming forward now, especially those with depression, anxiety. They're coming forward and we encourage them. And those of them who do come forward, they're getting the help they need, and they are able to go back to, leading a normal life, right? So mental illness can be treated. Come early. Don't feel embarrassed. It is an illness, and it's okay. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a punishment.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. We have one more question from Mr. Ravi Chandran. Okay, is it spending too much time on gadget and lack social interaction also can be a cause of the illness? Ms. Tana, would you like to take this question?
Again, the question is it?
Okay, is it spending too much time on gadget and less social interaction also can be a cause of the illness? Yeah.
Okay. The thing is like when they are spending too much time with the gadgets, they do lack social interaction. Sometimes they have interaction in the social media, so there is also social interaction, but they are not on a one-to-one. People can be sitting face to face, like parents having dinners and all. They are so totally disconnected with the family, but they are connected elsewhere to somebody else in a different part of the world. So they are socially connected, but they are socially disconnected from the family. And sometimes they may have certain problems. So that is why they choose to be isolated. They don't want to socialize with people, but they rather be on social media where people can't see them, they don't know the person. They're very active on. I've known of children. I do programs for children. There are many children, they are introverts. The parents say that they don't mix around with people, they don't talk to the relatives, friends and all. But I find that they're very active on social media. They connect with people in different parts of the world. They've got blogs. They write a lot of events there. Their mind, their poems, stories and all. So they're very active. So generally you cannot say that they have got mental illness, but they may have problem socializing with people. But sometimes there are people who have got problems, so that is why they choose to be disconnected from all these people, and they would like to be connected with the people elsewhere. And for example, those who play video games, they are totally involved in video games, and that can lead to mental disorders. Okay, they are constantly playing on and on. Some of them forget to eat, forget to sleep. They don't even take their bath. There are parents who come and tell me, my son hasn't left the room for 3 days. Sometimes they go to the extent of even using diapers. They don't go to the toilet because they want to continuously play the game. So that is a problem.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tana. We have one more question from Mr. Gunalan. Uh, okay, it's a similar question. சிறார்கள் இடையே மனநல பாதிப்பு ஏற்படுமா? அவரை ஏற்பட்டால் அதுக்கான அறிகுறிகள் என்ன? And also, similar question from Mr. Gunalan. Any guideline for parents to identify if their kid is suffering with mental health? Dr. Gayathri, would you like to take this question?
Right. So, இப்போ வந்து பிள்ளைங்களுக்கும் yes, unfortunately, even children suffer from mental illness. Mental illness is an illness that does not discriminate. So, இப்போ வந்து whatever your race is, your age is, your religion is, என்ன social status இருந்தாலும், mental illness is there. Just like physical illness, anyone can get. Now, how do we detect? You see, it's quite challenging for a parent. It's very difficult, especially the younger they are, it is even more difficult. Is this behavior or is this illness, right? So, generally, if there is a delay in their development, the way they think, the behavior, the emotions, the social skills, the social behavior does not correspond to their age, then, and if you feel as a parent, you're concerned, take your child and go and visit pediatrician. Discuss your concerns with the pediatrician, right? Now, what are the signs that we look for? You see, as a parent, that, go and see. If you're worried about something, go and see. Don't wait and say, because we are not the experts. And when we are emotionally involved with our children, it gets distorted. So what are the warning signs? When you see your child who has been actively playing and socializing with, the other children, suddenly very withdrawn and not mixing with others, that's a sign. When you see your child talking about hurting herself or is actually hurting herself, this temper tantrum, outbursts, uncontrolled emotions, child is looking sad, the mood changes, and then you see that the child is not eating properly. கொஞ்சம் behavior கொஞ்சம் ஒரு மாதிரியா இருக்கு, weight குறைஞ்சிருக்கு, இப்போ வந்து குடிக்கிற சாப்பாடு எல்லாம் she doesn't want or he doesn't want to eat. And then, even the sleep is disturbed. And, sometimes younger children, when they're very stressed or distressed, they can, a child who is being dry at night, he doesn't pass urine, suddenly passes urine. So the change of behavior. And then constantly saying stomach ache, headache, cannot concentrate. And, probably bigger children who have been doing very well in their studies, suddenly you see them deteriorating in their studies and refusing to go to school. Now, one of the challenges is children can have the same sort of mental illness like adults, but the symptoms may differ. So these warning signs that I gave you are just a group of symptoms. There could be more, but like I said, if it is worrying you, take your child and go and visit a pediatrician, express your concerns, let the pediatrician have a look and assess your child, and then you go on from there.
Okay. நன்றி டாக்டர் காயத்ரி. Ms. Tana, okay. We have one question from Mr. Gokul. Just a moment. Okay, I just have a question. How to manage depression and self-loss when it comes to kids who always at school for simple mistakes and parents who always seek for high expectation by looking at faults on their kids? I will repeat the question again, Ms. Tana. How to manage depression and stressful thoughts when it comes to kids who always get scolding for simple mistakes and the parents who always seek high expectation by looking at faults on their kids?
Parents having high expectation and finding faults with their kids.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Is that the question? How to manage depression and stressful thought when it comes to
Can you hear me, Dr. Gayathri?
Yes, I can hear you.
Who always get scolded for
I'll just
simple
take a
mistakes.
question again.
Okay.
Okay, I think the
Yeah, and how can we overcome
Always
this kind
high expectations by looking at faults on their kids. Yes. The thing is, like when
Yeah.
parents have high expectations on children, he says children naturally feel like failures when they don't meet the mark of their parents. And like let's say the child can get 96 upon 100. He would have answered, let's say, 43 questions right, and only got wrong for the rest. So the parents look at what the child got wrong, and then they find faults with the child. The child may be thinking, I got 43 right. Why are you looking at only the 7 which is wrong? So, as time goes on, the child feels that it doesn't meet the expectations, and eventually the child can also set high expectations for itself, and it can feel depressed. Okay, why am I always a failure? No matter how I perform, no matter how well I do, my parents find fault with me. And as time goes on, the child tend to make mistakes, no matter how I do, and the child gets depressed. And when they go to school, they do their exams, they are not relaxed, they feel so stressed. And when the child is stressed, it cannot think properly. He or she cannot think properly, and the child naturally doesn't do well. And I have a situation, an incident where a son was brought to me. The mother said that boy is always failing in exams. So I was asked to coach and counsel him. So I have been coaching him, and there came a time he used to play football every day. With my guidance, coaching and all, he started reducing to 2 times a week. And when the exam came, he really reduced it to once a week, and then he didn't go playing for a month or two. And when the results came out, the boy who has been always failing, he got 70 marks. So when he came to me, he was so excited. He said, Miss Tana, you see, I've got 70 for history. I said, that's very good, excellent. I'm sure your mom was very happy. He said, no, she's not happy. So I asked him why. And when the mom came, I told her, and she said, let's see when the results come. When the final results come, let's look at it. You see, when the child is not praised, it's not appreciated, he's got no motivation to perform better. How is he going to please the father or the mother? He'll be thinking, no matter what I do, you're not happy. So why should I perform? So eventually his grades go down, and this also leads to stress, tension. He tends to make mistakes. Sometimes they make careless mistakes. So this happens.
Okay, Nandri Miss Tana. Now there's a question to doctor. In regards to sexual orientation and neurodiversity being classified as part of mental illness, and the numbers of neurodivergence such as autism, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, etc., being in low numbers still, are we doing the right kind of awareness, and how can we do more about this lack of awareness?
so is a question for.
It's a question for you, doctor. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. Okay. Well, in terms of let's deal with sexual orientation and neurodiversity. Well, it is debatable in the sense that putting mental illness, sexual orientation under mental illness. It's a very debatable situation. I, for one, personally would not put it under mental illness, because that's a totally different ball game altogether. And I think maybe if we want to, we could always have a topic on that per se. But personally, I don't think that it is fair to put it under. But can people with different sexual orientation have mental illness? Yes. Can one of the symptoms of mental illness be a different, you think, yes, well, sometimes they're deluded when they are in an altered mental state. They think that they are not who they are and that's somebody else. So it's a bit complicated. Maybe we do not really have the time to go into that, but it would be a good topic, Leeynesh, for you to probably think about in another time. Now, as far as autism, ADHD, and so on, the numbers are not low now. Actually, the awareness is increasing. it used to be at one point, I will agree with you, there are still many who are undetected, but the schools, the primary schools, the the health clinics, the pediatricians, the child psychiatrists, we get together and we actually do screening at a school level, and we are detecting more and more help is coming in, and there are many NGO groups. NASOM is one of it, who are actively engaged in children with autism spectrum disorders, and parents are part of that group, and I think we are actually going in the right direction.
ஓகே, நன்றி டாக்டர். இப்பொழுது கேள்வி மிஸ் தான் அவருக்கு. ஓகே, just a moment. Okay, I just understand. Okay. Your families suffer from conversion of head of the family. The whole family suffers intensely. Miss Tan, would you like to take this question?
What is the question?
Question is not clear. Leeynesh,
Hello, Miss Tana, can you hear me?
I didn't hear the question.
Okay, sorry, I just reading the question. Okay, sorry, doctor. Okay, there are families.
There are families.
Suffer from religious conversion of head of the family.
I lost you.
Okay.
Okay. I think the question is, there are families whose, hang on, there are families whose, who suffer from religious conversion of the head of the family, and the whole family suffers in all the aspects, including emotion. How can we help them? I think the question has come out on the screen now.
There are families who suffer from religious conversion of head of family,
and the whole
family suffers in all aspects, including emotion. How can we help them? How do we help them? Well, the whole family. Doctor, would you like to answer the question?
All right. Well, it actually depends. It can be traumatizing for the rest of the family when somebody converts. Well, I suppose it also depends on which religion the person converts in and how acceptable the others are. Some people convert without telling the family members, and I assume that the question is coming from there. So when the சொல்லாம மதத்தை மாறினா, the rest of the family members will go through shock. So I suppose the only thing we can do as friends or other members of the family is to give them the support, to lend a ear, to give them the support. There's nothing much we can do. If they need any help, we stand by them and offer them the help. But most of all, I think the only thing we can do really is lend a ear. If it is financial help they need, then we have to help and mobilize, maybe the welfare or see what we can do. Other than that, this is a very general question. In terms of emotion, as a friend, be there for the family, be there for the friend, and just lend a ear. But I think that what Ms. Tana said earlier, the thing is, when we sit there and we listen, we don't give our opinions. We don't, be judgmental. We just sit there and listen and say that whatever support you need, I am here. Whatever help you need, I will try to find a way to see whether I can help you.
And be ready to accept.
I think there was a question on how are mental disorders diagnosed in the youth that we missed. Maybe while waiting for Dr. Leeynesh to sort out his sound system, maybe Ms. Tana, would you like to answer the question?
How it can be diagnosed?
In the youth, yeah.
In the youths, okay. Youths, I guess, adults and youths, the diagnosis will be similar. The signs and symptoms, like I mentioned, to identify about sadness, mood swings, very high, very low, and whether they are socially disconnected, and the eating patterns, sleeping patterns, all these can be seen. So these are the signs. But to actually diagnose, they can actually seek professional help, psychiatrists, psychologists. There are certain tests where they can diagnose the disorder, if there actually is a disorder, and or if there is anything troubling them. I think, like Dr. Gayathri mentioned earlier, like it is a stigma not to go to counselors or psychiatrists or psychologists, because mental disorder is very common, and it is good that people seek help and attention early rather than delay it and then get into complications. So it will be good if they can go and get themselves diagnosed and seek help and therapy if needed.
Right.
Right. Thank you so much, Doctor. Sorry for the internet connection loss. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes,
All right. Okay, that's great. Okay. So we only have 5 more minutes left. முடிவடையும் முன் வேறு ஏதோ கருத்துங்கள் உள்ளதா டாக்டர் காயத்ரி மற்றும் மிஸ் தனா அவர்களே? Before we end this session, Dr. Gayathri, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I do. Actually, I think one of the questions, Dr. Leeynesh, that you had sent to me earlier was that someone had asked the question, can I diagnose depression on myself and do self-treatment? I would like to address that if it is possible. Can you treat depression on your own? Very good question, but the answer is a resounding no. You can't, right? Depression is more than just feeling low or feeling sad or feeling upset. It goes way deeper than that. It is something that affects you so deep inside, and patients who suffer from depression, they give me examples like, doctor, I feel like I'm stuck in a black hole and I cannot come out, or I'm in a tunnel and I don't see the light, I feel lost. I mean, when you're in that situation, you need more than medication, right? So there are different levels of depression. So it's not just a group of symptoms and signs that you read off from the internet and say, let me pop the antidepressants and I'll feel better. It is not a fleeting headache that you take 2 Panadols today and tomorrow you feel better. It goes beyond that. And for your information, you cannot antidepressants without the prescription of a doctor, of a psychiatrist especially. And depression, mild depression, you may not need medication. There's talk therapy and support from your family members. Whereas from moderate to severe depression, there are a variety of treatment, a holistic, treatment combination where medications are involved, talk therapy, involved, and also mobilizing your support. And remember, depression is not something to be taken lightly, because the most dangerous sequelae of depression is suicide. Right? So depression needs to be treated. So please remember, it is not something to be taken lightly. And when you're on antidepressant, it's not to be taken today. I feel okay, I won't take because I can't sleep. You must follow the course. And even if you feel better, please don't stop. There is a reason why the psychiatrist is continuing the medication. You have any concerns, side effects, please come and talk to us. Don't take the decision on your own.
ரொம்ப நன்றி டாக்டர். மிஸ் தானா, உங்களின் கருத்துக்கள்? Your last something, Miss Tana.
Okay. Yes, I'd like to say something too. Like a lot of youths or youngsters these days, they like to go online, they like to self-diagnose. It can be very dangerous, when they answer a list of questions and then they say, oh, okay, I fall into this category. I've got bipolar, I've got ADHD, or I've got some sort of mental illness. So they feel that, okay, they diagnose themselves, and some think that they can even treat themselves by taking some hormone pills and all. So I guess it is quite dangerous to do that. It will be better that they seek psychiatric help. And like what Dr. Gayathri said, there are side effects. Okay, but it is important that they take medicine for a reason. Okay, and apart from that, just now someone else was talking about parents, being too hard on the children. Expectations are too high. Okay, even when the child fails, it's encouragement versus praise. When the child fails or doesn't do well, you can encourage the child. It's not always you praise the child. When the child becomes number one, you can praise the child. When the child becomes last, you cannot praise the child, but you can encourage the child to do better. So it's important in life that children are encouraged. They are constantly given encouragement to do better. So that reduces the stress which is placed on them. Okay? And one last thing, for generally, this is something general for people to be mentally healthy. They can be happy, do things which make them happy and make others happy. They can help people. They can do some charity work, community work. They can exercise, keep themselves healthy and active, eat well, sleep well, have enough of rest, connect with others. And most importantly, there's one thing I'd like to mention: forgive people. This is very important. Most of us find it very difficult to forgive people. People have a lot of unresolved issues which leads to stress and depression. It can. So I've got a 3-day program where people come. Some of them can be counselors and psychologists. They say, I don't have issues. But when they sit in the program, they feel that, okay, they do have certain things, and then they, realize that they have got that and how they clear it, resolve it. And then they come and say that I slept better, I'm much more happier and calmer. So most importantly, before we go to sleep daily, forgive people. That is very, very important. So unresolved issues can lead to a lot of problems.
Correct, Mr. Okay, Mr. மனநலம் என்பது சாதாரணமாக எடுத்துக்கொள்ள வேண்டிய ஒன்று இல்ல. மனநல நோய் இன்னும் நம் சமூகத்தில் ஒரு தடை என்று பார்க்கப்படுகின்றது. ஒன்றாக நாம் ஒருவருக்கு ஒருவர் உதவ வேண்டும். இந்த இக்கட்டான சூழ்நிலை இருந்த போதிலும் இதில் கலந்து கொண்ட எங்களின் போரம் விருந்தினர்களுக்கு, அதாவது டாக்டர் காயத்ரி மற்றும் மிஸ் தானா, மனமார்ந்த நன்றிகள். நான் தற்செயலாக தவறாக பேசியிருந்தால் தயவு செய்து என்னை மன்னியுங்கள். இத்துடன் நம் Facebook நேரலை நிகழ்வு ஒரு நிறைவடைகிறது. மீண்டும் சந்திப்போம். நன்றி, வணக்கம். Thank you, Dr. Gayathri, and thank you, Miss Tana. See you again.
Thank you. நன்றி.
Thank you.